Hey, I'm Daniel and welcome to a quick campaign overview and my thoughts on Rove Anchorpoint, a new game from Addax Games currently crowdfunded on Gamefound. As always, quick disclaimer that this video is not sponsored, I'll be just casually scrolling through the campaign page and sharing my honest thoughts as a potential backer of this game. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. So here we are looking at the campaign page. As you can see, it says Rove Anchorpoint, which is the new game introduced in this campaign, and plus we have Rove Reprint, which is their original big box games in a second print. It says 21 days left on the campaign, but probably by the time you'll be watching this video, those numbers will change a little bit, because I'm planning to post this video maybe in a day or two. And so this game is from Addax Games, and let me just give you a quick overview of what the game is. Maybe you just need to scroll a little bit. We have pricing, which we're going to talk about in a moment as well, rewards and all of that, stretch goals, and yeah, so we have gameplay overview. And so Rove Anchorpoint is a campaign, kind of dungeon crawler-esque type of game, and if I try to zoom in a little bit over there, as you can see here we have a scenario book with all the narrative campaign and scenario setup things, and there is a hex grid kind of combat map, and here we have enemy actions and what they do, and below that we have cards, because cards are the main actions of your character. Although, as I said, it is a dungeon crawler-esque type of game, but the main economy is going with action cards rather than dice, which is very similar to Gloomhaven. And although generally speaking I prefer not to compare games, I would say in this particular case it is indeed appropriate, because the main designer of Rove is known for creating Crimson Scales, which is a fan-made expansion to Gloomhaven, and it is arguably one of the largest and one of the most successful fan-made expansions probably ever made. So there is clearly a lot of inspiration in Rove coming from Gloomhaven, which I'm pretty sure the designer of Rove got not only as a player of Gloomhaven, but also as a designer of this fan-made expansion. So definitely a lot of similarities both in look and mechanics, and even of the overall structure of the game. As you can see here, we have the ability cards, and the main mechanic is that some of those abilities they generate ether, which you can then spend by flipping the card and spend with some other abilities. And yeah, this mechanic called Rally and Rave, it's a card flipping mechanic that keeps the tactical puzzle challenging and fresh. And if I scroll down a little bit below that, yeah, so that is pretty much how the setup looks. As you can see, yeah, there is the battle map, the scenario book, all the player boards over there on the sides, and the enemy abilities card. So maybe if I'll scroll down a little bit more, I'm not sure they're gonna show it in more detail. So yeah, we have character boards here with basic actions and additional character cards, and you have to manage ether, which is basically like an elemental things that you can add to your cards to improve abilities, or can change the way they work a little bit. If I scroll back a bit up here, for example, as you can see, this is the iconography probably shows that this is a ranged ability with a range DO3, deals 1 damage, and it generates one of this purple type of ether. And if you maybe spend this particular purple one, you're gonna deal 1 extra damage. I might be wrong about the specific details of this card, but that's kind of the general idea, that you generate all those elements called ether, and then you can spend them to amplify your ability. So there is a lot of tactical elements in that. There's also class evolution, which I believe is a sort of like subclasses that you can promote once you reach a certain level. And yeah, there is a world quite beautifully illustrated, I must say, which we're going to talk about this in a moment as well. And yeah, here is your typical kind of grid combat map where all the actions, where all the things happen, and you can see there is a lot of overlay tokens like traps and obstacles and whatnot, all those things that environmental effects. And yeah, I mean, that looks like pretty much the thing. They're not showing all the gameplay in details, unfortunately, so there is not much I can show, rather than probably the only thing is left here is the components of the game. And the price, we're going to talk about this in a moment as well. 4 classes: Ashrose, Traded Fate, Thermal Flux, and Pugilist. They are unique races and yeah, quite unique looking characters for sure. And the components, yeah, as you can see, we have 1 map book, 1 campaign book containing all scenarios, setups, and storylines, the adversary book, the rule book, and yeah, all those enemy standees, and overlay tokens, and player boards, and other tokens. And we have 4 starting classes with 60 plus skill cards, so roughly 15 unique class abilities to each class, and there are 8 class evolutions, which, as I mentioned, they're probably like subclasses or things of their sort, and 25 encounters, so 25 scenarios in this narrative campaign. And yeah, below that is a core game of the second print of Rove, which I'm not gonna cover in this video. I will just focus on the Rove Anchorpoint, which is a new addition to this game, a new thing in this campaign. Okay, so let me just scroll a little bit up there to this game overview. Okay, and well, I guess let's talk about the things I like about the game so far, and probably the main thing I want to mention is specs. And by specs, I mean kind of the general description of what this game does, at least on paper. I mean, it probably ticks all the checkboxes for me when it comes to, like, if you try to describe the game. I mean, it has tactical combat, yes please. Strategic card plays, yes please. It's a cooperative game, which also has a true solo mode, so yeah, it's a big yes please for me as well. And the character progression, and the itemization, and the overall fantasy theme. So there is a lot that I like about the game, and generally speaking, this is exactly my type of games, I would say. With the only but important caveat that we're gonna talk about in a moment as well. But I mean, generally speaking, if you look maybe even higher than that, if you go to the campaign tags, if you will, like with a fantasy and strategy, RPG, and it's a 1 to 4 players and 90 minutes, like all of this is a good stuff and pretty much upright my type of games. And I should probably mention that I'm a big fan of Gloomhaven. I played the Gloomhaven first edition, multiple campaigns. I played Frosthaven, the entire campaign, played Jaws of the Lion, and we are now as a family in the middle of a new playthrough and a full new campaign of Gloomhaven 2nd edition. So it is safe to say that I have played Gloomhaven a lot, and it's frankly one of my favorite games, so naturally I'm very attracted to this Rove game as well, again because it is very similar, and you can tell that it is created by somebody who played Gloomhaven a lot as well. Now the second thing that I like a lot here is that is the overall art and aesthetics. It is created by a beautiful designer and illustrator Alexander Yelechev, who is, no surprise, is the same person who created the whole world of Gloomhaven, all the races and kind of the overall aesthetics, and specifically I'm talking about Gloomhaven 1st edition as well as Jaws of the Lion and Frosthaven. Unfortunately, he didn't take part in Gloomhaven 2nd edition, but yeah, in Rove, as you can tell, if you know the works of Alexander, that you definitely will recognize his style. I mean, you just look at that. Let me maybe scroll down a little bit further down to the main big Rove game. I mean, look at that. All the races, they are very unique. I quite like that it's not a generic fantasy. It definitely has a character's unique vibe. It's quite a vibrant game as well. It's pretty colorful, but not too cheesy, I would say. So overall, I like the way it looks. Again, all those races and all this entire world is beautiful, and it is a big selling point for me. And I mean, you just look at all those races. I think it looks gorgeous, and yeah, I mean, I just like the way the game looks. And probably another thing that I'll mention that I quite like is the fact how they simplified all the field link and all of the mechanics. Let me maybe scroll up a little bit. If you look at the character board, as you can see, it is double layered, so all those basic ability cards, they are laying flat here in this character board, and whenever you use some of those basic actions, you just simply move the card, just slide it a little bit up so it becomes kind of exhausted or on cooldown, if you will, and you see this kind of red bar at the bottom indicating that position. So I find it really clever. I really like that you don't have a separate discard for all those basic actions. You don't need to move things around, you just need to slide up and down these abilities. This looks pretty good to me, and I would probably say the same thing about the enemy activation cards as well. As you can see, there is just a separate kind of special book containing all of the enemy arts and their actions, and you simply roll a die to see like kind of where it's gonna land and which of those kind of 4 possible combinations of their ability, kind of their move set will be used on that particular turn. But yeah, you don't have a separate enemy ability deck, which means you have fewer components, fewer things to store, fewer things to keep track of. It's just one single sheet, which seems quite simple, but I would say it's pretty effective enough and efficient enough. So yeah, I quite like this as well. Now for the things that I don't quite like, and the first and probably the main thing, I should mention that this is a campaign game, and it is such a bummer for me, honestly. And there is nothing wrong with that type of games, and as a matter of fact, I have several more games on my wish list that are campaign games. A couple of them would be probably Aridia and Oathsworn and Aegemonia and maybe a couple of more, but my main problem with campaign games is that they usually such a time commitment that I just don't have nowadays. I mean, even this Rove game, which is a very compact game, it has only 25 scenarios, but if you play, let's say, with your family once a week, and 25 weeks, that isn't that effectively, you are committing to play this game for the next 6 months effectively, which is a lot. And you can argue that, you know, hey Daniel, but you don't have to play all those campaign games in one go, you can break it, you can play some other games in between, and this is all true of course, but from my experience playing other campaign games, including Gloomhaven, I just find it so tough to take a break between, like if you take a break between all these scenarios kind of in the middle of your campaign, that it's so hard to get back to that. If you're losing that momentum, if you're losing that progression, if you take a break, let's say for a month between scenario 1 and scenario 2, you kind of losing kind of the point of the whole progression, which is again such a bummer because I like those kind of games, but purely based on my circumstances, based on the life that I currently have, finding the time to play a campaign game is so tough. Even though, as I mentioned, that we are currently in the middle of the Gloomhaven 2nd edition campaign, I must admit that it goes very slowly, definitely not as fast when I just started playing Gloomhaven 1st edition, you know, years ago, because life is changing, circumstances changing, and I'm not sure that I will have time to play another campaign game. And just to make it clear, I'm not ruling out the possibility of adding another campaign game to my collection. As a matter of fact, I have backed Lands of Evershade, just to give an example of another campaign game that I've backed, and it probably will arrive in 2026 or 27. We're talking about 1 or 2 years from now. And that is honestly probably my limit, like one campaign game a year or even every 2 years. Again, this is just purely my circumstances. Now, the second thing I don't quite like about Rove Anchorpoint specifically, and it's the lack of compatibility between this Rove Anchorpoint and the big Rove game. And from my understanding, this Rove Anchorpoint is trying to be kind of the same thing as Jaws of the Lion was for Gloomhaven, kind of smaller introductory type of games with slightly simplified setup, and they both have roughly the same amount of content, at least scenario-wise and classes-wise, but funnily enough they do pretty much the same mistake as Jaws of the Lion did, which is the kind of weird almost lack of compatibility with the main base game, and it happens here in Rove as well. And just to clarify a little bit, I found a specific comment here because there was a question in the Q&A section, in the comments section, and the question is, are Anchorpoint classes compatible with the base game? And the answer from Addax Games is, this is a great question and something that we would love to do, but at the moment they are not. Which honestly is a little bit beyond my comprehension. Personally, for me, this definitely would have been a quite big selling point, because I definitely do enjoy kind of modular type things. Let's say if you back these smaller introductory type of games of Rove Anchorpoint, and if you enjoy it and if you want more, and if you like it, let's say you want to then invest into a bigger box, but then it is such a bummer to find out that those components are not cross-compatible. And I mean, all the mechanics from between those two games, they are pretty much the same. Like the overall battle, the overall flow of the turns and of the battles and all the abilities, they work pretty much the same. The difference, at least from my understanding, are really small, but yet they are still enough to make them not quite compatible, which I honestly don't understand why. And speaking of mechanics and other things that I don't quite like, and that is this main kind of card flipping mechanic, because each of those cards, they are double-sided and you need to constantly flip between the two. And from my experience playing with other games that have double-sided abilities like that, one example would be Gloomhaven Bugs and Buttons, and oh my, I dislike that so much, which is quite a shame, because here in Rove that is definitely the main mechanic, that is what makes those kind of whole tactical puzzle works. But because all those cards, they are double-sided, even after playing the game and after you kind of memorizing the cards, at least in other games I find myself constantly flipping back and forth, like, oh, with this ability on this side of the card, on that or another, so you're always kind of flipping back and forth, and that is so annoying, at least to me. I just can't stand it, honestly. And don't get me wrong, I like the clever use of game components, and where a single component can do multiple things, and when cards are double-sided, but not when those cards are your main ability cards that you need to constantly flip back and forth. And I guess let's also have a look at the prices quickly. If I scroll up there, so the base game is $49.99, and that is USD, which is honestly not that bad, although of course it is not the full price, because you also need to take into account tax and shipping is quite aggressive, I would say. At least someone who lives in the UK, I'm definitely not very happy with the shipping prices, and let me maybe find them as well to show you. Let me scroll down all the way down to shipping. That should be somewhere like that, yep. So that are the shipping, and as you can see, obviously prices are different depending on where you live, but for me, because again I live in the UK, for me that would be $25, which is probably just a little bit above of what I would like to see for a game of that size. I mean, it's just 4 kilo, and if we try to calculate all the kind of the final cost, so that was 50, right, USD, plus 20% for tax, plus 25, and that is all USD. Now let's convert this in JPP, and so that would be £64. Honestly not sure about that. Again, if we compare with Jaws of the Lion, which is pretty much the same amount of content and a very similar game, the price tag for that game is almost twice as cheaper. So personally, I would love to see it maybe sub 50, but definitely not at 64, mostly because I would say pricing of the shipping is probably too high. Again, this is my 2 cents. Okay, so if I scroll all the way up and can give my final thoughts. What do I think about the game? And honestly, I think if you like Gloomhaven, this game is definitely for you. Or maybe if you haven't played any like heavy games yet and you want to find something quite simple but at the same time with some kind of depth as well, I think this game can be quite nice introductory type of games, and overall I think this is a good game. The main question obviously for me is like, would I back this game personally? And my honest answer is that I'm not sure yet, mainly because it is a campaign game and I almost have like a campaign fatigue, if you will. I simply don't have time to play those kind of long games. I find it really hard. And almost ironically, the main thing I actually do want to back from this campaign, if I scroll down a little bit all the way here, is the Rove art book, which I know sounds a bit crazy, but as I said, I really like the art of Alexander Yelichev. I think he is a great designer and illustrator, and if I try to zoom in a little bit, I mean, all the world that he's created here looks gorgeous in my opinion. So yeah, if I would back the game, I would definitely add this art book in my collection. I do have other art books that I've backed from other games as well, and I find a lot of value in those type of art books. Now the main Rove Anchorpoint, this is something obviously I'm considering as well, otherwise I wouldn't record even this video at all. I'm not fully sure about backing anything from this campaign yet, apart maybe from this art book, which is honestly a bit strange if you think about it. But yeah, that's at least my honest thoughts, what I think about Rove Anchorpoint in this campaign. Let me know guys if you are interested in this game and whether if you will back this or not. I know there are some Gloomhaven fans probably among some of my viewers as well, so I'd be really curious to hear what you think about it. And well, I guess that's a wrap for today's video. As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.